Hi, this is Matt at State of Flux here with another review from Everybody's a Critic Film Challenge. Week 8 is the week we're on, and that is a film set during a historic war. I chose the film Da 5 Bloods. Released in the year 2020. Aspect ratio, it flits back and forth between 239.1 and 1851. Runtime is 2 hours and 34 minutes, but it moves by briskly. Genre is war, drama, thriller, rated R. Starring Delroy Lindo, Clark Peters, Isaiah Whitmore Jr., Norm Lewis, and Chadwick Boseman. Directed by Spike Lee, produced by Netflix, written by Danny Bilson, Paul DeMeo, Kevin Wilmot, and Spike Lee. Music by Terrence Blanchard. Awards received. It was nominated. It only received one Academy Award nomination, which is the most unjust thing that has ever happened, and the fact that this movie did not receive more nominations will ripple and reverberate through time in an endless loop of turmoil. But the one nomination it did receive was for Best Original Score. Now, I just finished watching this movie, like right now, and I could not tell you a single thing that I remember from the score outside of the final scene that had Chadwick Boseman, where the score is kind of rousing. Otherwise, it is the most forgettable score I've ever heard. However, it did pick up a BAFTA for supporting actor for Clark Peters, as well as a SAG nomination for Best Ensemble, Best Cast, as well as Best Supporting Actor in Chadwick Boseman. Now, I'm going to stop right here before reading any further questions. The fact that Delroy Lindo himself received no major award nominations, or really even any considerations, is probably the biggest injustice in the awards system in the past 5 years. His performance was equal to, if not better than, any other performance last year, this year, and probably rivals, like, the best for a lead actor performance, probably rivals that of Joaquin Phoenix's excellent portrayal in Joker. He is so good. He is that good, and the fact that he got overlooked still bothers me to this day. Moving on. Why did you choose this particular film? So, I was trying to... So, war movies are not necessarily my thing. I was trying to pick a movie I hadn't seen before, but then I had a baby this week. So I was like, it might be a better idea to do a movie that I already have seen. That way, if I'm not able to fully watch with my full critical eye due to sleep deprivation, I would be able to pump out something. So I chose a movie that I've seen only once, however one that I very, very much liked and have been looking forward to watching again. However, this movie puts you on a journey, and I wasn't really ready to take that journey again anytime soon after watching it that first time. But here we are. I watched it for the second time. The number 2. Have I seen this movie before? Yes, I have. Would I recommend this film? Why or why not? This movie is phenomenal. Like, of all the movies that I reviewed in the previous 8 weeks, this is hands down the best movie that I've reviewed. This is outrageously good, and I say outrageous because it's outrageous that it got overlooked for any major awards consideration. I've already said that. It's worth restating. It is that fantastic. And I also chose this film because it's a war movie, right? The assignment was to watch a war movie. This isn't a simple war movie, like submerging you into the war experience of Vietnam, i.e. Apocalypse Now style, or Full Metal Jacket, or any other number of these movies. This one submerges you into 2 different wars. Really 3. The War of Vietnam that you keep getting these flashbacks to, where the aspect ratio shrinks down and changes. The war between black civil rights and what that means to these people who are fighting in this war that they have no belief in. The real war is to be done back at home, yet we never set foot there. And then the third war that's being fought is the contemporary one, where even though this war happened, things haven't changed. And the fact that this came out in 2020, this was supposed to be released much later in the year than it actually was, but Spike Lee insisted upon moving the release up because of what was happening with the George Floyd riots and everything that was going on with that. He felt that this is a movie worth seeing at that time, and that's when I first saw this movie. Boy, was he right. Did it hurt his awards viability? Absolutely. But getting the message out there and seen was much more important in that moment. So I think Spike Lee's decision to do that was fully justifiable. This movie is just simply firing on all cylinders. It has so much to say, layered with so much context and subtext. It's brilliant. This, I think, Do the Right Thing will always probably be Spike Lee's master joint, if you will, and rightfully so. That movie is fantastic. He had all the elements in the making there for a movie that will live on forever because it is so relevant and never won't be, which is a sad truth. And then he made a lot of movies that I really liked in between, notably like Inside Man. I loved Black Klansman, but I think this is his other strong opus, if you will. How he goes about tackling the idea of racism, the Trump America. The Trump hat in this film is an excellent little artifact that is passed on, and who holds that hat says so much about not only character, but about the state of America and what MAGA means. You have a person who's been completely burned by the system, but buys into this hateful rhetoric and spouts it back himself because he's just living in his own immersive hate tank. And the fact that ultimately the person who ends up with the hat is it gets passed on to a corrupt corporate entity from another foreign nation who is sporting the hat as sort of an ally to a cause, and to stick it in the face of people who it's really going to hurt. And then lastly, that hat is set down on your soul surviving blood, and sort of the weight of everything that has just happened rests with this MAGA hat symbolism on the chest. Effing beautiful. There's so much of that in this film. So much layer, so much subtext that is powerful. This film also really heavily immerses itself in the concept of race, something that Spike Lee has always been fantastic with. I'm going to come back to that at the end, because I do think that is the one criticism I do have for this film, stems from how he tackles race in a very profoundly strong way for the black experience, but a kind of ignorant way elsewhere. We'll touch on that later. To be continued. Follow through to the end. Alright. Which character were you most able to identify with or connect with, and in what way? I liked Storm and Norm. That's the Chadwick Boseman character. He's the sort of posit character of your Martin Luther Kings or your Malcolm X's. He's the one that has the powerful speeches that rallies the people together, that gives them a firm belief structure with which they're going to carry the rest of their lives. So it's hard not to really resonate with that character, because he's preaching ideals that should be inherent in all of us. So he is the strong point. My favorite character was, I can't remember the character's name, but Isaiah Whitmore Jr.'s character, he was fun, he was great, he was amazing. He gives a great performance that's overlooked as well. But he is fantastic in the film. I always liked every moment he was on screen. But Delroy Lindo's Paul steals the show. He owns the film. When he is not on camera, even though you kind of hate what he is doing and what he represents, you can't wait to go back to him because he is that magnetic. Best line or most memorable quote. I was hoping this would come up because I wrote it down. Paul has this line in the back half of the film where he says, "We fought in an immoral war that wasn't ours for rights we didn't have." Loved it. Beautiful. Excellent summation of the black experiences being a vet of the Vietnam War. Were you surprised by the ending? What would you do differently? I had no idea how this was going to end, and I'm going to preserve that intact for you. Needless to say, I was surprised how it ended. However, I thought it was really poignant, and it worked for me. I would not change how it ended. It worked as it needed to resolve what it was trying to accomplish. In what ways do you feel the film did not portray the time period accurately? I don't think that was an issue. I think this portrays the time periods epically so, because it gives you an experience that you don't often see, which is the black man's experience through Vietnam. The portrayal of that seemed very authentic and lived in and real. It also gives you glimpses of the civil rights movement that was happening at that time back home here in the United States, and gives that authentically. You keep getting it through these radio broadcasts that are done. And I think it is an accurate depiction of the state of America today, where we're going through another civil war right now, which it just hasn't necessarily been nationally declared. And that's why I chose this film. It's about the Vietnam War, but it's also about Civil War II, and that's what this thing is. That's the times we're living in, and this film tackles that. And I like that you have the black perspective on MAGA, both from somebody who's within the MAGA mindset as well as those who are without. And I thought that all played insanely well. It's an exceptional screenplay written by these four people. Anything else I would like to add? I think that Spike Lee did extremely good work with his camera movements. Especially, the visual language of this film is constantly showing you, cinematography is another thing that this movie should have been nominated for. You're constantly being shown very beautiful imagery, which is juxtaposing the grimness and gruesomeness of the war that is unfolding in these beautiful landscapes or beautiful sets, primarily at the temple at the end. There's a lot of very strong imagery that comes to mind there. He utilizes the camera in a very distinct way, and he recycles some of the stuff he's used even as early on as Do the Right Thing, of having your main characters talk directly into the camera for no real reason and for no real purpose outside of speaking directly to the audience, but is incredibly effective every time he does it. He is an author who knows when to do that, and do it well, because that shouldn't work. That tactic rarely works, and it was so kind of neatly refreshing and Do the Right Thing. It's something that should get old and feel old and stale with repetition. However, in this film I thought it was utilized very well, because you're, first of all, in the mindset of the madness that Paul is going through, so it doesn't seem unrealistic for him to be going on these tangents and staring directly into the middle distance. The middle distance happens to be the audience. But yeah, I thought that was really striking. The thing I wanted to circle back to, my one criticism of this film, which is an easy 4-star film and one of the best films of the past 5 years overall, without question. I honestly think that this movie released in 2020 is better than any film that came out in 2021. And there were some movies I really quite liked in 2021. None more than this. This movie is phenomenal. As for the year of 2020 when it came out, with the exception of Promising Young Woman, there was no other film that was as strong as this one. This is epic art. My one criticism with Spike Lee, even though he's really phenomenal at focusing attention on the black experience and drawing very thoughtful text to racial inequality in that sense. He's brilliant at it, unlike any other filmmaker really, at how well he accomplishes that, providing the black experience. One thing that he's not so good at is seeing experiences through other lenses. And he falls to the trope that a lot of, it's a very American flaw, which is that we tend to see our enemies as subhuman. And he brings your attention to that as oftentimes in American culture, the black man is the enemy, and therefore we see them as subhuman. He does epic work to deter that line of thinking. However, when extending to a war film setting, we tended to demonize the Viet Cong and Asian people, especially those from Vietnam during that time period. We did it before during World War II with the Japanese people and internment camps and stuff like that. The fact that this film starts off doing pretty good work by offering a pretty enlightened view of the Vietnamese people in contemporary day, it does delve into their mindless enemies by the end of the film. And that was something that made me feel uncomfortable. For a film that is so almost perfect at addressing racial inequality for the black man, it kind of forgot about the Asian experience, which it had already brought to the forefront in the first half of the film, but by the end of the film, you're demonizing him again as we often do in these war pictures. You can kind of peel back some of the layers, and with the ultimate reveal of who's behind things being a foreign entity who is just trying to make capital gain, that capitalism and other foreign leadership might be the true culprit, but that doesn't not dehumanize the way certain Vietnamese people are portrayed in this film. So that's my one criticism of an otherwise perfect movie, otherwise flawless movie. This is a movie that you should watch, one of my all-time favorite war films, and let me know what you think. This movie has a shockingly low IMDb star rating, and I'm assuming a lot of that has to do with probable bots and things like that, trying to tank that, because anytime you're not doing a perfectly even centrist ideological stance in a film, they tend to hate tank it, and the star ratings drop. Critical analysis was pretty strong on this. I think it has 92% or something like that on Rotten Tomatoes. Well deserved. Moving on, a highlight to see what our next week will be. Highlight's the wrong word. Foreshadowing for next week? I don't know. Sleep deprivation, it'll get to you. My Week 9 challenge, an independent film. Boy, that's... I don't even know what to do. That's so freaking broad. What do I do for an independent film? Like, Star Wars was, like, independently... Moonfall, which just came out, is technically an independently funded film, because no major studio financed that. Fun fact about Moonfall, absolutely not going to review that. But let me know in the comments down below what independently funded film you'd like me to review next. Thanks for watching. Ding the bell, like, subscribe, and if you haven't yet, watch The Five Bloods. I haven't even told you what that movie's about because you need to go out and watch it. It's on Netflix. Stream it. I don't even care if you sign up for Netflix for one day and then peel it back and say, nah, not for me. I guarantee you'll probably want to keep Netflix just so you can watch this movie again. It's very good. Enjoy The Five Bloods. Thanks for watching. Bye.